Hey, what's up? This is your girl, Taylor Wilde. Welcome back to Wilde On Season 6, the podcast where you get the insider's view of the weird, wild world of wrestling and witchcraft on Wednesdays. Now, today's guest, him and I go way back to the Deep South wrestling. That's when I was under developmental contract with WWE, and he had put his life basically on hold to take a shot at becoming a pro wrestling superstar. Now, I don't want to reveal too much about this interview, but it is a truly personal, candid conversation between two old friends catching up. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my friend, AEW superstar, Brian Cage. Okay, are you feeding your baby?
Yeah. And you can't, like, just out of sight. But
Okay.
he's in my. You can barely see him right there. He's in my arm.
Oh, so congratulations.
No problem. Thank you.
How old is the little one?
He's 2 months.
Oh,
He's pretty brand spanking new.
so fresh.
I know. He's actually been such a good baby. Like, so chill, so relaxed.
Really?
Like the other day, I watched him the whole day when Melissa had to go to California,
Yeah.
and I think that was the first time I've actually seen him like actually cry.
Oh,
Like, and I was like, yeah, he had just gotten his some of his vaccines like the day before, so it
yeah.
makes all temperamental and stuff, like sensitive. So that's the first time like he just kind of started crying out of nowhere, like, "What's wrong? What happened?"
Oh,
Like he was like hurt or something. And it's so funny when they cry and they give you that little lip, and you're like, "Oh, I want to help you. I don't know how to help you. What happened?"
it's okay. I have a big baby here. This is Carlos, an Italian Mastiff who needs to be on camera at all times. Sit down, please.
So we
Sit.
almost got a Borbella,
Oh,
African Mastiff, a couple years back because Melissa wanted another dog, and it's so funny too. Like, out of all the safety measures we have,
yeah.
she's like, "Oh, that would be great too," because this is a giant dog. We have two dogs already, but
Yeah.
long story short, I was like, "Oh, babe, you're gonna be like responsible for like training the puppy basically if I'm gone all the time." So I was like, "I don't
Totally.
want that task," and she's like, "Maybe we'll need another one." And then we actually got a Frenchie because she wanted a Frenchie, which obviously isn't a protective dog.
No.
Nor is my pug. But last year, almost year to the date, because it was on my birthday,
Yeah.
uh, I had this big birthday party planned. Everybody's in town for it, and I spent it in the ER, rushing my dog there to go freaking get cut open because of some foam thing she ate and was clogging her. And it was I took her to the urgent
Oh
care. They
no.
thought they would take care of it. Then they called me back. Like, no, you have to rush to the ER. She's gonna die. Like, you don't take her right now.
Oh
So
my
I spent the
goodness.
first half of my party in the vet getting that all set up, and $6,800 later,
Oh, that
I told her
hurts.
that's your new dog. Our old dog is your new dog now. So
Dogs are something. It's sit down, Carlos. Stop it. Sit down. Sit. Stop it.
how
Sit.
much does he weigh?
He is probably about 120. So the Italian Mastiffs are a little bit leaner,
Yeah.
but he when he stands up on his hind legs, he's taller than me by a bunch, but that's not that hard.
I mean, like, you're exceptionally tall, but
Yeah, I'm so tall. But you know what? They are great guard dogs. But
yes,
the counterbalance to it is they guard you from everyone, which is not helpful
sure,
because
sure.
90% of people that come to your home are not intruders, but they treat everybody the same. But I don't love people, and when I walk him, people cross the street immediately. So I like that part.
Oh, because they're like, big
Yeah,
dog. I'm gonna go over here.
but they're such suckies, like for their own owners. He's a big, cuddly, mushy. But yeah, they just have that switch, right? They're either big suck bags or
I had a Rottweiler growing up. It was like the family dog, and he was such a great dog. And it was so weird. He was so friendly with everyone.
yep.
And then when he went to leave, I don't know why, what tripped in his mind. But when you're going to leave, he would lose it. So as you went to the door to open the door, he would literally come barking like crazy and like sprinting at you, and everybody's like, "Oh shit!" and like goes to close the door, and he'd jump up like he's attacking you, like slam the door on you on the way out. I'm like,
Oh
Zeus, what the
no.
hell? Like, super friendly, freak out like a little dog, just getting all excited when he came in, and then
Yeah.
as soon as you went to leave, it was like, oh, you want to leave? Well, don't ever come back then. Like, it was wild. I'm like, my friends like would know, and they're like, okay, here he comes. But
Oh
I
my
don't know why.
God.
I think it was so weird.
So, switching gears from dogs to parent life, you and Melissa have had a whirlwind couple of years. You are a big AEW superstar. She's doing her thing full time. You brought a baby into the world. How are you guys balancing this new wonderful,
I will
beautiful
give
part of your
a
life?
lot of the credit to her. She is
Yeah.
little bit of superwoman over here and obviously takes care
Oh,
of most of it. And I mean, yeah, it enables me to still do a lot of what I can do. And
sure.
that's why when, things call like this moment where I'm like, do this podcast, but oh no, I gotta feed the baby. I can't be like, no, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Like, you gotta do something. Like, she does it so much. So I'm like, all right, well, I gotta figure it out.
Oh,
But
yeah, I love
and our
that.
daughter actually, who will be 6 very soon, she's actually been really helpful too with them. So
Good. I guess this is like you said, it's not the first time you've done it, but
yeah.
probably where you are in your careers is a little bit different.
Speaking of which, when I first met you in Deep South,
Yeah.
number two, that was so I have a so Melissa and I have 2 kids. This is our second one, and I
Okay.
have a son from past relationship, and I
Oh, I didn't
actually
know.
remember. So like how I even got to Deep South, and I was just jumping all over the place, but I don't even know if you know
Jump.
this. So because I was such good friends with Canyon,
Yeah.
um, I remember he hit me up because I talked about possibly like trying to go out to Florida or something because he was there at the same time and
Y-
or at that time,
Yeah.
and he hits me up and he goes, "Hey, I'm gonna move back to Atlanta, but I'm actually thinking that might be good for you because they have a developmental school out there." And he goes, "I can talk to Bucci, who I'm cool
Yeah.
with, and see if like maybe we can't get you in there to help get things going, get them get to look at you." I'm like, "What? Cool." So long story short, between all that stuff, I
Yeah.
with the blessing of my son's mom, I move out there. My son was like maybe 6, 7 months old at the time.
Oh,
He was
wow.
super young, and people thought like that also. It was like, oh, I don't care. Like, no, it was heartbreaking to like
Oh,
leave and go out there. And
of
I'd never really
course.
been outside of California at that time, so it was like huge culture shock. Didn't know what to do. I had a really good, shoot job that paid me well that I'm quitting to go pursue, the chance at this. And even though there was so much doubt and uncertainty, I
Yeah.
felt like if I didn't go out there, there'd always be this what if, if
Sure.
I didn't go. So I show up. I also that's when I found more about Canyon's bipolar depression too, and
Oh.
he was more manic about like setting everything up. And then when I got there, he was down, and I'm kind of like it was cool hanging out with him, and like just he was kind of like lounging around the house watching movies. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm like I'm over here to get things started. I'm not just sitting here for a vacation for a couple of years.
Yeah, you're not having haha.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like look, I want to go get a job. I want to get out there. I want to train. Like, I need to get things moving so I could try to get back to my family, as soon as possible.
Of
Um,
course.
he talked to Bucci. I went and got a job at LA Fitness that way too. It paid for my membership.
Yep.
I also had the realization as well that California having the highest state minimum wage, and I just thought that was minimum wage all around. And then when I found out that Georgia was federal, not state, and it was like 5.15 an hour at that time. I was like, oh
Oh,
my
God.
god! I'm like, that's nothing. Yeah, and I was making, especially the overtime, like almost triple that, like in the job that I left.
Yeah.
So I show up like that Thursday before the show, and I go to the back and knock on the door, like totally like nonchalantly, because I'm thinking like, oh, it's all premeditated and everyone knows.
Yeah.
And good old Festus answers the door, and he's like, "What the hell? Like, who's this?" And I go, "Hey, yeah, is Bill here? I'm supposed to talk with Bill." And he goes, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Oh, Brian Cage." Like, he should know that I'm coming. And he's like, "Okay." So he's like, "Wait a second." And so he shuts the door, and then Bill opens it, and he
Yeah.
goes, "Who are you?" And I go, "Brian Cage." And he just looks at me, and I go, "Bucci was supposed to talk to you, set all this up." And he goes, "Nobody called me. No, I talked to Mike." And I was like, and then I'm like, "Oh crap!" And he goes, "Wait, what's going on?" I go, "Well, I was a wrestler, and like Bucci had it set up, and I just came here from California." He goes, "You just flew in from California?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Wait, hold on, come in, come inside, come inside." And then that's why I just sat there and watched the show. So I remember I was talking to him, and he's like, "All right, kid, well, we'll figure it out. It's going to be stopped here pretty soon, anyways."
Yeah.
So why don't you just come back, when we restart after Christmas, and we'll figure out, what we can do for you. And then they were gonna charge me to come there. Maybe even
No.
they did like the first month. Then also, I was sending all the money I made cash wise back home,
Of
and I was
course.
living off of credit cards. Also, too, like that whole time in Georgia, I racked up $20,000 in credit card debt.
Oh my
To go out there,
God.
yeah, I was. People talk about sacrifices, right? That's I'm out there, so I'm missing my son growing up. I'm, going broke, and I remember telling Jody
Yeah.
like the second month, I'm like, I can't afford it. Like I understand. Like I don't want to seem like I'm, cheapskating or scapegoat. And he goes, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just keep coming. Like it's not a big deal. Like we just want you to keep coming here. I'm like, all right, sweet. So lo and behold, too, and not just from being there, but more so, which I mean, it did help with Dr. Tom, but
Yeah.
from meeting Lou Cox, who was a good friend of the Canyon, and Bill
Hmm.
Barons, they're actually the ones when I ended up moving back to California when Deep South closed down. They got me set up as an extra, and I did the
Okay.
3 different loops, 2 SmackDowns and a Raw, and I got signed during those times. So
Oh.
it was cool coming back to Florida. I'd seen Tom there, and as I walked in, Tom was like, "Brian Cage." He's like, "Way to be persistent." I was like, "Yeah, I made it happen." So
Wow. I had no idea because we were all scrambling during
yeah,
that time. We were all in McDonough, and then it was like, okay, now we're closing. Now we all have to move to Tampa at the time. Everyone was so there 1 minute, gone the next. And I had no idea that you were struggling so much. You never said anything. You just showed up, happy to be there, happy to work. And meanwhile, I had no idea you had a newborn at home. You're living off credit cards. No one knew you were even going to come there. Like,
no,
I'm not surprised though. Like, as much as I have hilarious memories of Deep South, it was a well disjointed machine.
after you quote unquote make it right, people just think like you had it easy. I'm like, no, I had plenty of struggles, even after that. But
Oh
that's
yeah.
just part of the deal of like sacrificing it and going after it. Whatever your dream is, whether it's entertainment wise, business wise, whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it obviously paid off in the end. Like, and all that debt got paid off eventually from wrestling. So thank God. But
Thank
uh,
God.
yeah, I mean, it was. I obviously wouldn't have preferred it that way, but
Yeah.
again, as everyone says, things happen for a reason, and I don't know if I would change it. And it helps. It definitely helps, like humble me and appreciate so much more that I have now, and really respect and just admire everything I went through. That kind of creates the person that you become.
Let's talk about your physique. When we first met in what, 2005, 2006, you have put in an immense amount of work, and you're massive now. You're the most jacked dude, and you're still balancing your life. You're wrestling, you have a new baby, you're doing kick flips on the internet. How are you still on a skateboard at your size?
I think that one surprised people the most too. When we were in Jacksonville too for like 21, the Young Bucks got like sent a bunch of skateboard stuff,
Yeah.
and the people they were just giving them out to everyone. And I started putting together and gripping everyone's skateboards, and everyone was shocked. I was like, "Oh, yeah, I used to work at a skate shop. Was a big skater." And like, I think even I did it in Helicos and Jack Evans, and
Yep.
then they had Darby do like Brandon Cutler. So then they're like, "Oh, dude, BK did it way better than Darby did." And I was like, I got some skills. I always talk about that too. Like when I graduated high school, I was only 155 pounds. So
It's
even though I was
crazy,
way
dude.
smaller in Deep South, to me, I was
Yep.
jacked compared to what I was then. So like, I've
Sure.
always been super dedicated with that, and that's why I said too. I went to LA Fitness, and only to like work as a trainer, but that way I had the free gym membership, and I was there,
Right.
before every freaking practice, after every practice. So I never had the like intention or even
Hmm.
like I don't want to say desire, but like just the idea that I would get like this big muscular wise. That wasn't like
Yeah.
the plan. It just kind of happened.
No, it wasn't.
So I mean, like I
That
just wanted,
wasn't the
wanted to
vision.
be Jack, but I never thought that like I would be capable of like being like this size, so to speak.
Sure.
And also like a lot of people thought that I was just like this crazy high flyer. And I've always been like athletic and stuff. I actually did more like flips and tricks, so to speak. Like
Yep.
as I got bigger, more so than when I was like littler. Like I just kind of started trying it. I remember I did some stuff in FCW when I did get signed when I still was
Yep.
smaller, like just on the
Yep.
crash pad, like messing around. But I never really incorporated it, any of it or much of it. And then it really I wasn't until probably like 13, 14, 2013 or 14 that like I
Yep.
started doing stuff just like I was like there's like probably one 6-man match or something. I was like, oh, I'm gonna moonsault to the outside, and it was like, what? And it got such a huge reaction, and then I just kept kind of like just started doing stuff, and it
Yeah,
would be so over because it was like my size doing it, and then I just
totally.
started doing it like all the time, way too often, just to like stand out and get more over. And then
Yeah.
now I do it very rarely. Like I think I've dove maybe like 3 times in my whole like AW career. So I know everyone knows I can do it, but since I don't ever do it, every time I
Yeah.
do something, it's like as if I did it for the first time. So it gets more of a reaction.
Sure. Well, I hate to be biased, but like, you like you said, you expect it out of someone who is more of a cruiserweight. It is so much more impressive at your size because you lose mobility, you lose flexibility as you put on muscle. So the fact that
Oh,
your trajectory has changed to being more high flying as a jacked monster is amazing.
oh, I definitely lost mobility and flexibility though. Like it's
Yeah.
I I mean I can touch my toes and whatnot, but I definitely don't like. I loved chain wrestling there for a while,
Yeah.
uh, and doing so much stuff, but so much of that now is so much
Yeah.
more difficult. At least to do it smoothly, just because like I get in my own way, trying to like do it. I'm like, oh,
My bicep is in my way. Excuse me. There's you doing the things that are hard. You're flipping and flying when you're how much? How much do you weigh now?
262,
Ooh, and how tall are you?
6 foot.
Oh boy, good for you.
Good for you. Yeah,
Grocery
I'll be
bills
like
must be fun.
I was probably like, and not as lean, but like I was probably 215
Sure.
to get in deep south, maybe 250, 210. Like,
It's funny because I like associate you with being around the same age, the same kind of era in wrestling. And I hate to say it, but arguably our generation is aging a little bit more gracefully than
right,
even the youngins.
right, yeah, yeah. I'm about to be 40 here in a couple of weeks, so I know.
Happy early
40.
birthday.
Thank you, thank you. And like most people would be like, "Oh no, I feel so old," but I'm like, dude, I'm jacked, in great shape. I move around still. Like even being a white guy, I'm like, I feel like I look younger in the face. So I'm like,
100%. You do.
I don't feel bad about that at all. And it made me think like, even when I was like an 8-year-old or whatever, my mom's friends would like joke around and like lie about their age all the time. Even at
Yeah.
that time, I would like always be like, but wait, if you're, so say they're 38 and they're like, oh, I'm 25. I'm like, well, you look awful for being 25. Like I don't see like in my head, even as a little kid, I'm like, wouldn't you want to say you're older so you look younger, not say you're younger,
Yeah.
but you look way older? Like I was like,
No, it's you want people to be like, "Oh, you look great for your age."
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
don't
exactly.
want to
I
lie.
mean, the same with Melissa too. I mean, she looks phenomenal. She'll be the same age as me in a few months. So,
Oh, you know what? I mean this no disrespect. I thought Melissa was younger than us.
oh yeah, everybody does. Like I mean, when I first met her, I thought she was too. I thought she was
Please
basically
tell
the
me
same age.
what cream she
Well,
uses. She has some she's doing some voodoo, isn't she?
I mean, and that's the same thing as like regimented. I mean,
Yep.
she's all about her fitness too. She's actually in our garage gym right now. That's why I
Oh,
haven't
good.
paid. But as regimented as I'm about my meals and supplements
Yeah.
and prepping and packing everything, she's got her whole facial routine every
Oh,
morning, knocking
yeah.
stuff down. Like, and like even then, she's tried to get me on stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like trying to teach a old dog new tricks. Like, look, I have
Yep.
my regiment that I do for me already, and to add
Yep.
anything else in there, it's too much. It's like, and
That's
maybe I
yeah.
can get it in there for like a week, and then once you miss it once, you're like, never mind. It just goes
It
by the
has to be a
wayside.
balance. Yeah. Well, I always look at Joe Rogan, love him or hate him. He's in his late 50s, mid to late 50s, and homeboy is just a podcaster, and he's looking like he's ready to be in a UFC octagon at any
Yes, yeah, yeah.
time. Like,
And I think a lot of that too is just staying active. It's
oh, for sure.
that's I think that's the number one thing is because so many people become so sedentary, especially on the
Yep.
work, but then when they're not working, that
Yep.
you just it's like it just ages you doing nothing.
It
Where
does.
and it's funny because then it's so much harder to do something. Well, you don't want to because everything hurts or this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
And the kind of I think the cure all for it is to get up and do something. So it's
Oh,
kind of a
yes.
catch 22. Like you kind of got to break through that mold there to like get things going. But I think the
Yeah.
longer you don't do it, just the worse it gets and the worse it gets.
100%. And I don't know about you, but I'll put my tin hat on at any point. I think, really food is medicine, and it's
100%.
so easy to just fall into especially with our lifestyle, is to eat on the road, eat at restaurants, grab things that are quick and healthy. And then, we live in this world of pharmaceutical solutions, and the basis. And I think for anti-aging is really eating good whole foods with not a lot of crap in them. Things that come in packages and boxes, they're not good for you.
Well, and I felt because I'm not competing in bodybuilding or anything, but I just love the lifestyle, and I have my food 9 out of 10 times. I do have a huge sweet tooth. That's what really gets to me is all the sweets and the desserts. I can say
Yeah.
no. 'Cause I love pizza and hamburgers and stuff, but I
Oh,
can say no to
yes.
that and pasta and like all the real food. Sweet,
Yeah.
it's like oh, it's so hard, especially if it's free. If it's like they're in catering or like if
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
makes it, it's like oh, do you want a brown? It's like oh, but yeah, I feel like that's definitely helped me with everything because of just I just naturally already do that. And then
Yeah.
the more and more we've looked into like foods in foreign countries, and you see
Yeah.
how much different it is, or how many things are banned, and or the ingredient list is half the size as like in the United States and whatnot. And it's
Yeah.
like how I mean, a bag of Cheetos is still not garbage for you, but like, why is there double the ingredients in the
Yeah.
Cheetos here than everywhere else? It's like, whoa,
Oh, yeah. And you're like, if I drop a Cheeto underneath my car seat and I find it 5 years later, why does it look the same?
right?
Like,
Yes, yes.
what
Just
does that
crunchy
do to your
too.
body? Yeah, it's so crunchy. Yeah, because you're gonna taste it. Like, it
Oh,
looks good.
dude, I absolutely would taste it for sure, 100%. Like, don't like, I'd have to. I'd be like, whoa, Cheeto?
Now, you've been in this industry for how many years now? Total.
It's just
From
been
when you started
this will be going
training.
on 18 this year.
Ooh. And you've watched the full trajectory of women's wrestling from, the Attitude Era, probably before, and then since you've been in it and you've seen what it looked like in WWE with the Divas, and now you're in AEW that has a huge, diverse, vast women's division, as well as being married to Melissa, who is a badass bitch in her own right.
Right here
Sorry.
after your fucking thing.
Hi, Melissa!
So
Congratulations if you can hear me.
I can. I can.
Okay.
Thank you.
You look beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All things considered, I'm a dripping mess right now coming from cardio, but I appreciate it.
Oh,
Bye.
bye bye.
Uh, too,
um,
it's funny, and I will take this opportunity to put you over
oh,
because I remember there wasn't. I mean, yeah, when I first started too, there wasn't a lot of women's wrestling, right? There wasn't,
no.
obviously in WWE, but like in the Indies, there wasn't that many women,
Yeah.
and if there ever was, like they just weren't good because they were almost like valets that wanted to be wrestlers that didn't really do much or whatever. And then I remember, I think I've already put you over 1,000 times to yourself, but I remember watching you and Angelina in there and like running like all the spots and stuff, and I was like, crap, I've never seen a girl move like that. Like just your
Oh,
arm drags and everything else. Actually, even then, the first, I guess, intergender thing I've ever done was taking a head scissors from you as well. I don't think that was the first one I ever taken from a girl, but yeah, I remember I was blown away. And I
oh,
remember you talking like Canyon or even friends back home, like, dude, there's this girl there, like, dude, she's unbelievable. And then
oh.
I felt so like bummed when like as women wrestling really was blown up, like you kind of like semi-retired, if you will. And I
Yeah.
was like, dude, she was like so much better than these girls and like so ahead of her time before, like all this women's revolution stuff. So
Thank you. That is so, so kind. Thank you so much. And like, I think, I'll toot my own horn for my day. I know I was ahead of the curve and I was an athlete, and that's why I was hired, because I didn't look like all the other girls. Like, I didn't have big fake boobs at the time, and I didn't have, I didn't look like a 90s porn star.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
where we were at. I was over with the boys and I had the respect, and it was really cool because we had a family. But I always think like my biggest hindrance was the fact that I could wrestle, because they never really knew what to do with me, and it was hard to place me. But I had been at it since I was 18. I was hired by WWE just before I turned 20. So by the time I had gone over to TNA, I put in a good 5 years. I was 25 and I was like kind of burnt out, and there was nothing else for me. I knew WWE wasn't going to take me back, and I was too burnt out to do it anyways. So, I had to step away, and I stepped away for 10 years. I was done. Like, when I stepped away, I was done. And I wasn't even bitter. I thought my best years were behind me. Like, I thought this was it when I stepped into wrestling. I really thought this is where I belonged, and I just felt like a square peg trying to fit in a round hole. So thank you. That means a lot
No,
coming from
you
you.
were only 20 in Deep South. That's crazy because I mean, at 22 also being that good as well. I'm like, unbelievable. And
Oh,
I mean,
thank
maybe it's
you.
just being Canadian because I remember there wasn't when Natty got there. That's how good it
Yeah,
was too. And it's funny enough when I was in FCW, and I guess my old Cage logo kind of looked like a maple leaf or something. It looked more like that.
kind of. Yeah,
And so I remember like especially a lot of the non wrestlers that were there in FCW,
yep.
the football players and stuff. I don't even know how I got even brought up, but they're like they said something about me being Canadian. I go, I'm not Canadian. And they're like, what? I thought you had like a mute. I go, no. And they're like, oh, we all just kind of assumed you were because like you came in, you were like so good like right away. Like we
Yep.
figured you're Canadian because all the Canadians we have here are like between like
I
DJ and
do remember
Perry and
that.
Natty and stuff like so. And
Yeah.
I go, what? All right, well, I can dig that. I'll take that as a good compliment.
I mean, Canadians usually do pretty well in the world of wrestling because there's
Yes,
not that many of us.
yes.
I was in Deep South when the Bella twins were there, when Natty was there, Angelina, Chrissy Vane. That was when that dial really changed and the Bellas became like it. And those girls work crazy hard and they're incredible business women and they've done so well for themselves. But, I watched the Divas or Total Divas and I watched their careers ebb and flow. And I just sat there thinking, what did I do wrong? Like, how did I miss that boat?
Yeah,
But
and I thought, I mean, yeah, like you just said, you were light years ahead of all of them as far as in your in ring works. Because you awesome Kong her first loss, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Which, you know what? That was the thing. Like, okay, I didn't slot into WWE for whatever reason, but I think it was 2007. I'd have to check my own Wikipedia. When I went over to TNA the first time. Yeah, I was there for about 5 years. And then at 25, I was burnt out. And that's when I left. I was gone for 10 years. And then I came back during COVID.
They man, so you didn't wrestle at all that whole time, huh? Wow.
10 years I took off. And that
And
was
crazy,
scary.
COVID, that's what brought you back on like the worst
COVID.
time.
Well, that was kind of the thing. I had gone through a really terrible marriage, which then resulted in a really terrible divorce, custody battle. And it was during that time that I thought, you know what, I lost myself during this marriage. And I think when you don't have a good partner, motherhood, it changes you hormonally, physically, mentally. And I just thought, you know what, this is my time. I need to get back to like my roots and who I am and what makes me happy. And I was a firefighter. I've been a firefighter since 2015. And during COVID, it was a crazy time. And I just thought, you know what? I'm coming back. I'm coming back now because it would be the hardest time to come back. But it wrestling really saved me, I would say, again, because all this personal life I'd built up imploded. And I was fighting for custody of my son. And just like as you do during a normal divorce, like it's not like that I lost custody. I have sole custody. But that the court system makes you feel like at any moment you can lose and it all gets uprooted. And, Canada was so strict with the COVID rules. I've had so many COVID tests, and to then get a visa during that time, to go perform for the first time in 10 years, wrestle in front of no
Oh,
audience.
I know. The worst.
Wrestling did save me. But what you might be remembering is I came back after 10 years for only 3 months. And then the way my nasty custody battle went, my ex actually used COVID against me and said I was endangering my son's life while traveling
Traveling.
during the pandemic. Although he was also a frontline worker, a first responder. So make sense out of that. But my son is my world. He's my top priority. And there was no second guessing like, okay, I retired for 10 years. I came back 3 months. I'll step back. And I stepped back for another year. So I came back for 3 months, stepped back for another year, and then I came back. So basically, I tried to revive my career at 37 years old.
Hey, you know what? It's like the new 20, so who cares? But
Thank you. Yes,
what,
agreed.
so I mean, what do you? I know this is your podcast, but yeah. So
No, please.
what
I love
what are you
this.
doing? What are you doing now then?
Well, actually, so wrestling is put on the shelf for me
Yeah.
again. I went through a ton of shit. Again, I haven't even publicly spoken about this. So you're like, you're pressing the right buttons here. But I went through a lot in my personal life. So like I said, I touched on the custody battle, the divorce. And my dad had a heart attack shortly thereafter. And first responders did CPR on him for almost an hour. He made it, but it was 8 months in the hospital. He was
God.
in the ICU. He almost died a couple times. He got COVID. He had to have a tracheotomy and a partridge in a pear tree, but he's home. He's independently living. So that was beautiful. The custody battle, divorce got nastier in that time, affected my work life, both wrestling and as a firefighter. And then I moved in with my sister and my now late brother-in-law during that time. And I basically almost just a year to the day that my dad had a heart attack, my brother-in-law had a freak accident happen and passed at 37 years old.
Oh.
And that left my 32-year-old sister and my then 2-year-old niece without a dad. And with everything I'd already been through, I thought, you know what, I better take a break from, like, I was going to take a leave from firefighting and just do my podcast, just be on the road full time. But what people don't know is when I came back to wrestling, I was bringing my son on the road with me full time. And that's like 2 12-hour TV days with TNA. And then I was doing my podcast. I was working full time as a firefighter still. And I think when I walked away from everything and I was just going to focus on wrestling, my body pooped out on me. And I had a neurological emergency that scared me enough that I thought, you know what, if this is any correlation to wrestling, then that's it for me. So I was going to give wrestling my all this past year. And after everything I'd been through, whether it was stress, whether it was the COVID vaccine, whether it was going to happen to me anyways, my body gave out on me. And so wrestling is on the shelf for me now.
Oh, dang. So is that a for a good thing or just, I never say never, but more than likely?
So what happened to me was so scary and so forever changing, I think, that like I'm still not, I have been medically cleared.
Yeah.
If I kind of ever changed my mind, but like my life is not 100% yet. They take certain privileges away from you when these things happen to you. And I think being a mom and recovering from all the like emotional things that went on for 2 years,
Yeah.
my life focus has changed. I think my self-worth always was wrapped up in producing, wrestling, doing a podcast, being a firefighter, being the best mom, doing, and maybe not dealing with like emotional pain kind of thing. That now that all got wiped from me, my happiness stems from like having a family, and I met the love of my life during this, which makes no sense because that's not what you're supposed to meet your person.
Yeah.
But I met this amazing guy, and I just love family life. And I would have loved to have stayed involved with Impact. Like, just because it may have been wrestling on the shelf, I would have loved to have been like, I stay in a manager role. Like, the Coven was my baby. People don't know this, but I wrote that shit. Like, being a witch on screen was everything I dreamed of in the 90s, like The Craft and grunge music and like all that shit. That's really who I am. Or, producing backstage, participating creatively, commentary. Like, I would have loved to have stayed, but I guess, just the way that company goes and right time, right place, it didn't end up staying that way. So I'm living in the world that I always am, whereas like, I don't know. I retired at 25 and then I came back 10 years later. I don't know.
How long did it all last?
Having a final order and like the books are closed, it was about 2 years.
Yeah.
And about 2 years, let's call it that.
So I had, that's become like a personal deal, right? So
We're getting real.
I always joke and say it's like my holy female trinity. So I have my son's mom, I have the ex-wife, and I have the current wife, right? So
okay.
When I divorced my ex-wife, and that became bad too, and we didn't even have like anything to really like fight over it, and it was just so bad. And I even said too, now when I have friends who are married who might get divorced, and whether they want it, don't want it, whatever. I'm like, I'll tell you this right now, like, and I was the one that wanted a divorce too, and even then, I'm like, there's no winning. Like, I felt just as crappy as her not wanting a divorce. It's a no-win situation. Well, so my son though was from the previous relationship, my high school sweetheart, and my ex-wife and my son's mom, who were not cool at all the whole time we were together, now we're best friends. And then,
No.
yes, and it made it such a nightmare. And all of a sudden, like my son at this time too is, I think roughly 8, 9,
Okay.
and all of a sudden, it was like I was like splitting up with the son's mom all over again. So while I'm dealing with the divorce battle, I'm also all of a sudden this huge out of nowhere custody battle, which we've had fine for, like I said, like almost 9 years now, right? Or
Right.
well, since we separated, so 7 years, whatever it is. But so yeah, it was a no-win situation, and even then the divorce was probably about maybe a year and a half, and then
Okay.
but then the child dispute still went on for another like 3 years. So it was before I
Oof.
got it all solved and I guess sorted, so to speak. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, so I totally understand how much of a pressing nightmare and just
Oh,
so draining, and there just feels like
it is so draining. And it doesn't have to be as hard as it ends up being. Like
oh
people, it brings out the worst in people.
oh for sure. And then whether anybody wants to admit it, everyone's using like the real loser out of it too is the child. Like, and I feel like
Oh, I
everyone
know.
uses him as like a ploy to like get back at this, but like, and it's just such a shame, especially too in the fact
Yeah.
that and even then with the my son's mom, like there really was no reason for it at all, and it was almost like it just like got inspired by the whatever the ex-wife was feeding into her, and then become friends, and just kind of like, hey, we should totally
Mm,
stick it to Brian. It was just a nightmare. It was rough, and then it made it really rough too for Melissa and I, like, because I was going through all through that, like right when we got together then too,
yeah.
and then yeah, for her to stick through it all too. When I brought a lot of baggage to the relationship, was
Yeah.
definitely no easy task. So I was blessed in that
No.
regard. But yeah, it did sound like you had quite the traumatic couple of events going on back to back to back. So I understand,
Yeah.
but I always feel I hate when people stop wrestling, especially like when I enjoy them both personally and professionally, but also more so when it's somebody like you that I feel like definitely doesn't haven't really got to showcase or get the your flowers, as the kids say now these days,
Oh, yeah. The flowers.
that you deserve
I
for
love
sure.
that. Oh, thank you so much. You know what? There's always that part of me that feels like I just keep missing the mark. And then, I think if I'm really practicing being like vulnerable and emotional these days is I worry, like, am I too old now? And I know, like, so I'll be 38 next week. I've been at this, like, trying to just break that like, I don't know, it's like, if I look back, I feel like I've had a good career. I tried my best in developmental, and it was a different time, and I just,
Yeah, I guess that's what sucks too. Is if it was a different time for you, I feel like you were first
yeah,
in development on, then going forward into everything else. But they were
yeah.
like, oh, you're young and you're a girl and you're really good. You know how to wrestle. Like, yeah, we got nothing for you. Get out of here.
Well, that's how it was. And it wasn't really like you suck, but it was just like, you've had a year, next.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of how developmental was back then. And, I did a lot at TNA,
Well, and like, when we did that
but
too, I remember that's like because too at that time, like in the late 2000s, I remember like WWE, and though there was good women wrestling there, majority of it was just
yeah,
like you said, just like teen, like it was like models and stuff trying to be wrestlers. I remember TNA had
yeah,
an actual really awesome women's roster, and
yeah,
I was like, because I remember even just watching it, like I feel like WWE just hires hot girls and then tries to train wrestlers. I'm like,
yes.
I mean, if you watch TNA, there's hot girls that know how to wrestle too. So like, why don't you just use those girls? Like, makes no sense to me.
I know. And that's the interesting thing about AEW. And I'm probably biased because some girls I really, really love are working backstage, like Madison Rain
Yep.
and Sarah Stock. Sarah was my tag partner. Madison Rain's been probably my longest standing girlfriend in professional wrestling. And then I love the women's division. Like, what Tony Storm is doing
Oh no,
right
it's
now
intense.
is so
Ever.
funny.
So good. So good. I mean, like the first couple of weeks she was doing it, I was already over the moon about it. I remember like telling her, and
Oh,
she's like, "Oh, that's so thoughtful." But I'm like, that's gonna be meaningless now in a couple of weeks when like everyone's saying the same thing, which, yeah,
yeah.
it's incredible.
But it was such a risk, especially for a woman being like this kind of like zanier character. And zany's been done, but always like with a sexual undertone. Like, like when Mickey was obsessed with Trish. There was a little bit of like an unhinged character.
I remember that was the first WrestleMania I've ever been to, and I remember that was the first match that was like awesome. Was her and Trish,
Yeah.
and I remember too like, because they
Yeah.
had such a good storyline and build to it as well, and then they killed it in the
Yeah.
ring. So
Yeah. And look at Mickey. Mickey is now that girl. She is she's worked so hard and she's worn so many different hats in wrestling. And now she's going to be responsible for the women's division at OVW. And it's like, okay, what's going on at OVW? Like, this is interesting.
yeah, I heard they just brought her in recently. So
Yeah. But anyways, I just love that this turned into a real conversation with you and I catching up. Like, you're welcome, audience. You are watching.
Thank you for not asking. So when did you start wrestling? What got you started? Who's your dream opponent? I'm like, when people ask for podcasting, obviously I wanted yours because you're you. But when people ask, I'm always like, before the first questions of like, is it even worth my time? Right?
Yes.
If I do agree to it, I'm like, all right, do not ask all these questions that are the basic questions that we can find online or listen to 18 podcasts and they all have the answers to. Like I'm like, please don't. So
Well, I don't know about you, but my favorite podcasts are the ones where it just seems like a candid conversation between two comedians or two actors, and people already know I'm a wrestler and majority of my guests are wrestlers. So we've already cleared that. We already know how our careers began. We don't want to talk about that shit. That's boring.
I had no idea, that didn't even plan about talking about the Deep South stuff, which I don't think I've ever talked about. So like that just came out. And again, like, yeah, I love it when I'm doing podcasts and people start asking me about, like horror movie stuff or Marvel comic, like what, just like other stuff that I'm into. We just start getting to like a big nerd debate and about things, and it's just outside the box. Especially too, I think it humanizes me more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just people see me as this big jacked up meathead that just looks like an asshole 24/7, and like there's like I don't know about this guy. So then when they see me, like they hear me talk and they go, oh wait, he's just a big dork or like, oh, he's a normal human, like.
Totally.
Yeah, people can connect and relate to me better than rather than just see me like, forget this guy.
It's more interesting talking about the way we're feeling today versus, like, I think the most painful question is, where do you see your career going? It's like, I don't really have any control over where my career is going. That's the honest answer.
Let me text Tony, see what he says. Hold on. Okay.
Yeah, dear Tony.
Right. Because we were talking about TNA so much. I went to the show yesterday.
I saw that.
I hopped in. I got added. I didn't know I was going to do TV on Saturday, because I was going to go Saturday. So I had to go in there. Then my flight got delayed and whatever. And I probably got there about halfway through the show, and it was even more stacked yesterday, Saturday. It was awesome, and obviously I'm there and I know so many people there, wrestle wise, office wise. So it was great to see everyone say hi, say hello, and the crowd was so hyped, especially for the Josh and Ospreay match. It was amazing. I actually was going to leave to go to the gym because it was so late, and then I was leaving. They're about to go on, and I was like, damn it, I got to stay and watch this match. And then I'm so glad I did. The crowd was so hyped for it, but I just love it to see them, and I want to see them keep growing, doing more and more. And when people say the whole like, even back in the day, like I want Ring of Honor to go out of business, I want Impact to go out of business, I want that. I'm like, why would you want that? Like if you don't like the product, you don't want to watch the product. Well, first of all, when people crap on the product, TNA for instance, it's so great because you're like, well, when's the last time you watched TNA? And they're like, oh, I haven't. Like, well, then how do you have any say on how good or bad it is if you don't watch it?
Totally.
I can't tell you how good or bad some movie is that hasn't came out yet. No one's seen it because no one's seen it. So I don't know. It gets me so hot and bothered. There's so much wrestling, and such easy access to it. Where if you want to watch it, okay, well then watch something else. But don't sit here and demonize it because you just want to be cool online and get your little 15 minutes of fame.
The best thing I think when wrestling has been at its highest points is competition.
Sure.
It's not exciting if just AEW or just WWE is killing everything. That's not exciting. Competition breeds better television, breeds better talent. And I love seeing the cross branding, like you being there to support your friends. Like that's the thing. We've all come up at some sort of time where we know each other and we want each other to do well regardless of the brand. So I don't know why the fans got to be such haters.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And yeah, it's so cool to be there. Like, oh yeah, I want to go through. And like I was so excited, just for the TNA thing. Because basically how even Ospreay said, like, oh, I've always wanted to wrestle for TNA, not Impact. Like just it's the same thing, but obviously there's a difference. And even I
Totally
and I
is.
wanted to be on the show. I was like, I want to work a TNA show. Like, I get a hometown. So cool. Like it is. And I love that you can still get those
Oh,
like,
that's
geek out moments of being like a little kid where you're like all like marked out to be a part of this, or it's like when you work freaking whatever legend, they're gonna give you their finisher and you're all excited about it. Like that's still bringing out the
yeah.
little kidism in you as far as just being a fan, which is awesome that when it can still happen, this day and age. So
So come on, fans, start being a little bit positive, more positive.
okay.
I don't want to keep you because you were so gracious to give me your time, and you've got a fresh baby and a beautiful wife. But I just want to wrap this up and do a little bit of a speed round, my top 10 tailor-made questions. Okay, ready? What's a beauty product you cannot live without?
What is it called? It's like oh my gosh, it's the gel that I use for my hair. It's the best gel ever. It smells so good. I can't even think what it's called. I think it's called like Illumination or something like that.
Okay, I love this. I like that you have a beauty product because that's not just a female question. Men got to be pretty
Right.
too.
Well, that's about as deep as I go.
Who-
But yeah,
That's fair. Who is your ride or die sports team?
49ers
49ers.
always.
Love it. Favorite band or artist?
You know what? Since high school, Kid Rock.
Oh, good one.
I don't. Yeah, that's what we do. All these favorite questions, teams, whatever.
Yeah.
Once somebody's like reached that favorite, it's never changed. It's never fluctuated.
No.
I've been,
Oh,
like, a
that's
49er fan
good.
since
So
I was,
you're
like,
a true.
6. Yeah. Some people like to jump because this person was the championship or this or whatever. I'm like, no. Like once they reach there, that's just them. So
True blue. I love that for you. What is your favorite clothing designer
I don't know if I have one of those.
or brand?
Well, I'll tell you what, because I don't think I have, but I'm actually wearing my pants right now. Gasp Nutrition or Gasp Inc. rather, which is a fitness
Oh.
brand. The
Yeah.
most phenomenal clothes ever. And like if you go there and try to buy them, you see how expensive they are. There's a reason. Like they are. It's so nice. It's so nice.
That's how I feel about Lululemon.
Everybody loves
People
Lululemon. I
crap
have some
all over the
Lululemon
price.
pants. Yeah, they're not my favorite. They're not my favorite.
Oh,
But
interesting.
I don't know, these fit weird. But like, but whether it's like shorts, gym shorts, regular shorts, jeans, they're little crazy oversized t-shirts, tank tops, hoodie. Hoodie is
Yep.
amazing. Like it's all their clothing, even their like gym accessories, like your wrist wraps, lifting straps, knee wraps. Like all their stuff is like substantially different than anything else gym wise. So
Well, that's good because like you don't have like your average off the rack build, so you need to have something that works for your body.
but it's just that the quality is just up to up here.
Name a movie that changed your life.
Well, because it's in my little gimmick room in here, half of all the memorabilia there is Army of Darkness. I will say that movie.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'm a bit Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Bruce Campbell. That whole lineage right there is if I'm obsessed with anything more than wrestling, it's that for sure.
Okay, you talked about comic books. What is your go-to?
Like my guy Wolverine for sure, Piper. But
Okay.
so, like that's right after the Army of Darkness stuff I have in there. Then it's the Wolverine. So I don't know if I have a favorite comic book. I mean if I want to geek out, the Fatal Attraction series is great, or even Age of Apocalypse for any nerds that know what those are. And those are much older comics, but yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite comic, but those ones I remember were pretty epic.
Okay.
I'm actually more of a fan too of I've a crap ton of comic cards. I was a big Marvel card guy growing
Oh,
up, and like almost like I have all the crazy expensive like adult toys. I have those now too, but I
mhm.
still have all my childhood toys, cards, comics, all of my little collectibles, and those almost mean more, right? Because they're like nostalgic. So
Yeah, that's really cute actually. That's a little like maybe you could never find that fun fact on the internet
for
about
sure, for
Brian
sure.
Cage.
I spent like even then here we'll go with this. I remember I had all these all my wrestling figures too. So mad, Melissa.
Yep.
So she goes, look, you need to cut down, trying to be my mom on so much toys that you have. So I went through all my wrestling
Yep.
figures and I kept the ones that I just really wanted, and the ones I didn't need or care about, and I put them in a bin.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give them away. Like I did, like my old
You gonna
wrestling
donate them?
VHS tapes and stuff. That's everything, digitally now. I was always on Craigslist or
Yep.
whatever. It's like Toy Story 3 style. It's like find someone to
Oh yeah.
pass it on to. So I have this big
I
I
love
have this
that.
big bin full of wrestling figures. Cool. I'll put on Craigslist or whatever. I'll give it to somebody. They'll love it. So I go away on the weekend. I
Yeah.
come back. I'm like, yo, where's that bin of figures? And was like, I threw them away. I go, you threw them away? I said, you're getting rid of them anyways. Who cares? I go, oh, would have never just thrown them away. I was so mad. I was so mad.
Oh no.
She didn't understand.
What has been your favorite city to perform in, visit, kind of like?
That's a good question. I was actually thinking about this too. Like somebody asked me, like, "Oh, what's some of your favorite places?"
Yep.
Because there's a few different variables too. Because there's like awesome arenas, there's awesome fan
Mhm.
bases. There's
True.
also like just personally for me, certain cities that have I guess more hookups in, more friends, amazing gyms, whatever. There's always little benefits.
Yep.
If I just try to keep it straight to wrestling, man, it's like a really hot crowd that I love every time. Because there's some really good ones. I feel like I've wrestled in I mean Seattle, especially like in Defy, the indie company up there.
Hmm.
They are tremendous. Um, we're looking at AEW wise. I don't know. I've wrestled in Dallas so much too. I feel like I'd
Hmm.
have a better answer like tonight at 3 in the morning when I wake up to pee and I'll be like, oh, I should have said this city.
That's okay. That's okay. Just say like, I don't know. You don't have to have a favorite. It's just like if something was at the
Yeah,
forefront
yeah,
of your
yeah.
brain and you're like, blah.
Because like I said,
But
there's
maybe you don't
definitely
have
perks to
one.
so many places, and then there's times where we're going to somewhere where I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't want to go there. Like, just is what it is. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I have a specific go to place. There's so many that are really good, but I don't know if there's one that like stands out. I will tell you this too, country wise, the favorite wrestler wise, Japan's so cool as well. I absolutely love going to Australia.
Ah, that's a good one. There we go. We're going to call it
Boom.
Australia. What is your least favorite exercise?
Uh, Probably front squats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
don't
shit
like.
one.
Too. Also talk about mobility and stuff. I can't. If I could go like this and hold the bar like with my hands, I'm fine. I have
Yep.
to do this gimmick, and then that bar like
Yeah.
starts to roll forward, and it's just it's no fun. I always do every now and
it's
then,
not
and I'm
it's
like,
not
why am I
happening.
wasting my time? I'm not doing these anymore.
Well, to segue into that, what's your least favorite move to take?
Like a big face bump. I don't like those.
I don't like those either. And you pee a little as a woman, so
Oh really?
a little
A
bit,
lot of my
a little bit.
moves are that I give people are face bumps too, but like every now and then I feel a
Ah,
good one. Like, this isn't bad, but I don't know why. There's something about certain face bumps, like depending on what the move is, that like I'm like I don't know.
hmm,
I just don't like taking it. Um, which
yeah.
brings me up to one of my good friends who doesn't wrestle anymore. He was great. His whole move set was based off of moves he didn't want to take. So he's like, if I do those moves, then
Then
I
I
can be
don't
like, oh,
have
that's
to
my
take
move.
them.
I'm like that's not a bad way to go about it.
That's
All
actually
right, pretty
genius.
good, pretty good.
Who's your most embarrassing crush of all time?
Most embarrassing crush?
Hmm.
Um, it's funny. I just saw Harley Cameron talk about um, uh, her biggest crush.
Brock
Yes,
from
yeah.
Brock from Pokemon.
So I popped huge for that because I was like, I low key had a little bit of a crush on Jesse from Team Rocket on Pokemon as well. But I think I had a bigger crush maybe
Beautiful.
on Jubilee from X Men, the X Men cartoon, which also at least makes sense because I didn't even realize at the time, but I think she's like 10 or 12 in the cartoon. I was
Yeah.
probably 8, so it's like a little closer to my age range.
Fair. That's totally within range.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Finish this lyric. And this is for the questions that don't have any answers.
Oh my, well, something with the topless dancers.
The midnight glances and the
Yes,
topless
yes, yes.
dancers. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time out. This was a
Yes, I'm glad it
blast.
finally happened.
If that wasn't a different look at Brian Cage, I don't know what is. But I was genuinely so excited to catch up with him. He's done so many amazing things, and he's obviously done quite the healing journey in his own regard to go through divorce, custody battle, marriages, births of children, while trying to become a superstar in the crazy, weird, wild world of professional wrestling. And obviously, I can draw the parallels between all the things I've been through with his story. And, it really struck a chord with me. And I hope all of you listening, no matter what, if you're trying to become a professional wrestler, or you're looking to finish a degree, or you're trying to get a dream job, don't give up. We all go through our own shit. And that's what life is. No one said it was easy, and we all fall. We all fall flat on our face, and we make stupid decisions. You can't turn back the clock. It's all about how you recover gracefully and style it out in the world. And you know what? Be honest. Just be honest about your messiness, and you're gonna find your people. Because at the end of the day, your vibe attracts your tribe, which is why and how I ended up in the world of professional wrestling. I hope you enjoy the content that Wilde On is bringing you weekly. I made a big blunder last week, and I didn't say thank you to my right-hand woman, my queen, my editor, my sister, Rochelle Douris. She is the fiercest editor in the podcast world, and right now she is in a very, very cold place called Winnipeg. Well, actually, it's outside of Winnipeg. It's smaller. It's called Brandon. It's cold, like real cold. Like, I mean, go check the Weather Network. It's snowy, it's cold, it's bleak, and she is doing her thing while simultaneously editing this show for all of you to enjoy. So please, don't hesitate to give us that feedback. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can keep this show going. And until next week, keep calm and wild on. Blessed be.